what I realized after reflecting on all of the data and all of the client acquisition pathways, you'll say, that I've used in 2024, and, with a great new mindset going into 2025 about what really moves the needle, I found that my pitching to someone in the DMs and Instagram is kind of a networking pitch. It's custom to the person, just like any good pitch would be. And I'm popping up in their DMs like, "Hey, you stand out to me. There's something about you that you stand out to me." And I'll reference a post, or I'll reference something. "I saw what you're doing. I saw you just launched a podcast. I love your subject matter. I'm always looking to network with women like you in business. I use my podcast as an asset. Hey, if you ever want to talk about coming on the Vital Mother podcast or coming on the show, I would love to feature you." Sometimes I've gone right into pitching. It's two pathways. It's either using my podcast as an asset, which, for anybody listening, if you don't have a podcast, there are other assets you can use. But it's two pathways. It's that, or I'm pitching, "Hey, do you need a guest expert teacher in your group on the subject of copywriting? Would it help your students to, or your members, your group members, to have someone come in and review their copy or do copy analysis? Would they benefit from that?" And then I just wrap with saying something like, "I'm always looking to build, long-term relationships in the industry with women like you, and you really stand out to me, and I can't wait to hear from you." And then I send the message.
See, that's really genius because you're not going in straight with your services. You're more introducing yourself and what you do and talking about how you could potentially partner with that person and have a value exchange versus selling them on you. And I do find that in certain industries that can be really effective because people want to know the person that they're going to be doing business with more so than other industries. Because what I'm finding is that with like enterprise companies or even like a small business with an actual marketing department, they are used to getting pitches from service providers, whether that be graphic designers, web developers, freelance copywriters, and they're not playing with their own quote unquote budget. They're getting a budget from the C-suite and then they're deciding how to distribute that budget. So it's, I would say, more comfortable for them to answer a quote unquote stranger. Whereas, and I'd be curious to know what you think. Like, why do you think it's different for somebody who's in the type of clients that you have, your clientele? Like, why is it different for them to receive a cold pitch in that way? And why might it not be as effective?
It's a great question. Why is it different for them to receive a cold pitch and it not be as effective? Well, I think there's a lot of referrals in, I think there's a strong referral situation going on with copywriting, right? There's like, when someone gives you the in, okay, you're vetted, you're trusted. And so that's something I think that people they're not necessarily looking for someone brand new off the street that they don't know. They're kind of looking for someone who's pre-vetted, who's not going to give them a headache, I think, or be flaky or things like that. I think there's the mindset that cold pitching is suboptimal, or like not a good strategy. Like in the coaching space, even the fact that you're cold pitching is, you're putting yourself out there to be kind of categorized as someone who's not business savvy, which is not really accurate because copywriters need to cold pitch. Anyway, so I just think you're fighting a lot of perceptions, like mental perceptions with that clientele. And so that's why I come in kind of from the sideways, like angle. Like it's a pitch, but it's just kind of an adjacent sideways, lighthearted, it's nothing, it's not like pitching a $5,000 service.
Right, right. It's not putting them on like the defense to be like, wait, this person's trying to sell me something right away without even knowing me. If you were talking to a brand new copywriter, let's say it's someone who they've always wanted to write, they're in their 9 to 5 job, maybe they're doing like customer service, and they're like, I would love to be self-employed, make my own schedule, and I want to go into a niche like Jillian where I'm writing sales copy for people that I actually care about, an industry that I'm into, but they don't have anything yet. Like, what advice would you give to a beginner in terms of how to like even get to the point where you're sliding in someone's DM saying, "Hey, I love what you do." Like, what comes before that?
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's a great conversation. I've watched myself really really make some big leaps in the last 12 months. And I've been reflecting on, okay, what do I have that maybe some of the copywriters I've been connecting with don't have that I've, and I almost feel like I have an unfair advantage because I built a coaching business. And so I know business building. And because of that, I just know what step to take and when, and I'm just jumping steps. I'm like, because I did it before. So I think for somebody who is in a 9 to 5, who doesn't have that experience yet, I would challenge that person to look at a piece of paper, to blank piece of paper, nice and big, long piece of paper, and write down your experience. What do you have? Right? My experience was unique to me and it was valuable, but I can guarantee that the people listening, you have some very similar, valuable experience that makes you stand out in the marketplace that can be used as a differentiator. And it doesn't necessarily have to be what's any other copywriter's experience looks like, up to them, hitting kind of a certain level of success in their journey.
Yeah, that's the advice I give as well, is like, what have you been through in your life? What are you interested in? What are you uniquely suited for? What do you nerd out on? If you can take an inventory of just what makes you unique and then craft that into a story about how that experience benefits the end customer, that's your narrative. That's your unique POV, which we all need, especially now when things are becoming saturated and there's a lot of competition and we're fighting with AI and all that stuff. I also think understanding how a business works is so underrated. I think that was the advantage that you and I both had. So I was doing sales before I became a writer. So understanding how to actually take a client from someone who didn't know me to somebody who was going to pay me was something I had done for other companies. And for you, you have this behind the scenes like business building background. So like what advice would you give to someone who doesn't have those experiences and needs to understand like the big picture?
Well, I don't know what this opinion is going to come out. So I think when I look at copywriters and I see a lot of them and I get questions from them, and I think a lot of them are not working backwards from their revenue goal, and they're kind of just creating these little tiny like mini jobs for themselves. And I just wish I could kind of shake them a little bit and be like, hey, how long are you going to stay here? Like, is this really what you want? Because you need to work backwards from your revenue goal. Do you want 100 little tiny bosses? Like, do you want 100 little tiny projects? I know we all need to start somewhere, but you definitely want to be mindful of what you're getting done in 12 months time and how you're leveling up, unless you want to stay with all these little tiny projects for years, which people do. They get stuck and then they quit. I see copywriters charging, like you were saying about the mindset stuff. So a copywriter will charge what they're comfortable charging based on what they're comfortable spending, and it's not the way. You need to understand that somebody else's $5,000 is your $500. Somebody else's $10,000 is your $500. It's not all the same, but there, like you were saying, there's businesses who have the official budget system where the budget comes down. There's money to be spent, and you need to get out of your own, they say this, right? They say get out of your own wallet, like drop that all aside, cut it out, and actually charge. Because if you, for a high performance sales page, for example, long form sales page, right? These pages are tied to hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue and more, right? For businesses. So we're directly involved. A $5,000 sales page, that could be one sale for that person's offer, right? And how many more sales are they getting because you did a great job A to Z on their sales page? Which, by the way, if you learn the sections of a sales page and you learn frameworks and formulas, you can do this. You can be that person to come in and increase the sales. So I definitely, there's like moments where I really want to shake copywriters who are staying stuck, who just aren't getting out of their own head about what they're charging. And yeah, I just don't want them to be there forever.
Yeah, value-based pricing and kind of shifting to understanding the end goal of your writing is so key because I think, like you said, copywriters are like, well, I love writing. This comes so naturally to me. I can write the sales page in 4 or 5 hours. So why would I charge 5,000? how could it be worth that? So you always have to work with the end in mind, in the sense of, well, if that sales page converts just one time, how much will that business owner get? And is the business owner going to see the ROI? And you can do that with that's really when I tell people, because people are like, okay, how do I know who to reach out to? And I'm like, well, look at their website, look at their business, look how much their products cost, and say to yourself, well, if I'm writing an email sequence for this company and it results in one sale, how much money is that company bringing in? And then you build your prices based on that versus, oh, 5,000 seems like a big number for me personally. So why would I charge that? But tell me more about what you were saying with them not working backwards from like the overall revenue goal, because I think that's probably the number one thing I see people missing. So explain what you see copywriters doing versus what it looks like to work backwards from a big revenue goal.
Sure. So I see copywriters charging, $1,500 for something, and their timeline for that thing will be, 3 weeks. And so, okay, so that's 3 weeks for that. And what's your capacity for other things during that 3 week turnaround? And so are you doing that 12 times a month? Because what's that other week about? And so it's like, all right, go ahead and multiply that $1,500 times 12. Is that really what you're going to roll up your sleeves to create here? Or do you want something substantial? Whether you're doing a side hustle and you want to, whatever your goals are for freelance copywriting, it really is important to say, to identify its capacity and turnaround and price and look at it all for the year. Like even me, I'm in this position, right? I have a 3 week process for a long form sales page. I break it up. I've got 2 kids. I'm managing other things, and I actually have a brand new position as a lead copywriter inside of a 7 figure company. And so I've got a lot on my plate. I've got a 3 week process for the sales page. So even I'm going through this going, all right, 5K a month on that service, it really needs to go to 10K. And I can do it because again, these people are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not even about my confidence. That has nothing, I can just completely drop that. It's about the client and their budget and the way they invest in their business growth.
Yes, and how much time you're saving them to free them up on actually running their business. That's really key too.
Right, like I can go in two directions, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. I can go in two directions. I've got this proven service with the sales page. It's an 85% success rate. I love it. But I can either go to 10K and keep doing it myself. And there's an add-on for launch copy, and if it's part of a funnel, that's an add-on, right? So I can take the sales page, this service to 10K and do 12 a year or take a month off, whatever. I try to make my offers be 6 figure offers from the out of the gate. Like I want to know, does this offer make 6 figures alone? You know, so I can go to 10K or I can stay at 5K, serve the same level of clients I've been serving, which is safer for me because I've established myself there. And I can bring on junior copywriters to help me execute and free up capacity. Where I'm going to go with this, I've got a foot in both worlds, so that's where I'm at. It's like there's not just one way to scale. The last time I went up on my rates, I had a dry spell. And I think people need to be aware of that. When you go up, you may be outgrowing the people who are leads in your world. And you have to prep and actually save, I think, have some money banked for when you go up on your rates. And yeah, I had an interesting little dry spell when I went to 5K on the sales page service.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that popped into my mind when you were saying like, oh, you need to be smart about the price point in which you are accepting projects, because what that requires is saying no to certain things. So in the beginning, I think when you're not making money, it might even be beneficial to take on a few low paying projects in the beginning, but you can't stay there for long or else it won't work. It won't be feasible. So, and I know exactly what you're struggling with or trying to understand in terms of decision making right now. It's like, do you want to bring more people on, or do you just want to charge more, even if those opportunities take a little bit longer? It's so true. There's not one way to get to the end goal, to the revenue goal. you have to decide, I think, what is more comfortable for you, because I'm at a stage in my business too where I'm wanting to simplify and strip away a lot of what I have built, offers, people that I'm paying, whether it's assistants, coaches, like I'm wanting to strip it all down because I'm learning that the level of complexity in my business right now is not working for me. And it might have been working up until this point, but I'm burning out in a lot of ways. And I think it is just like that shift of like, okay, maybe I don't post on Instagram with the help of my virtual assistant anymore. Maybe I can go all in on YouTube and try to generate leads that way. Or like, for example, I'm thinking of shifting away from serving B2B SaaS clients because I really feel that God has been calling me away from serving those types of clients for a while. And it's becoming more and more evident, like through closed doors, that it's not the right like space for me, even though it's been so safe and reliable. And I'm feeling more called towards service-based businesses, people like lawyers, bookkeepers, photographers, people that I've done copywriting work for on the side as like a favor, but it's never been my bread and butter. So I'm even trying to figure out, well, if I'm going to deliver services to that segment, how am I going to make it profitable for me? Because it's not the same budget as a enterprise SaaS company would have. So I just would encourage anybody that before you make any type of move to think it, like play it forward and be like, okay, if I'm going to do this, how would I make it feasible? How would I make it profitable for myself instead of just, going straight into it and being like, well, let's see if I can just get this small project here and there.
Yeah, for those clients, I think one of the things to really zone in on would be their process of having been in business for, let's just say, 3 to 5 years at least. And then they're coming into this growth phase where they realize their positioning that they started with, their copy that they started with, and maybe their branding that they started with is kind of feeling outdated and maybe not accurate anymore. So for those clients, I would really zero in on the person who's like, I'm not going to say that they're saying this, but it comes to mind like I'm ready for my big girl website. I'm ready for my real website. I'm ready to this thing got me. This was my training wheels. It got me here. That's the person who's hungry to like really put their flag in the ground. And so I find with those clients, it's like that moment where they're considering a rebrand and they're considering a new website and they just want the top work. They don't want to mess around with like, I don't know, not good work. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. That's exactly what I'm seeing with the people that I'm speaking to. They're like, well, I threw together this website. I had no idea who my ideal client was at the time. And now I really want to get this dialed in. And I was in a similar place, like even for having brand photos taken. Like at a certain point, you realize, like, I don't want to take photos of myself and mess around with this. I'd rather have a bank of photos to pull from so that I could post them on social media and, make my marketing lift a little bit easier. So yeah, you're spot on with that. It's
Yeah.
just it's just making me think.
I'll tell you another one. I'll tell you another one. So sometimes a business leader where you can come in, or anyone listening who's interested in this particular route, sometimes there's a lot of people popping up underneath them, like copycats, and they're like, I'm over it. I want to really, like, someone will take their program, their trainings, and they'll then put up their own website. So you see this in like the birth worker space, right? There'll be like a big program where people come out and they're birth workers, they're postpartum wellness people. Well, they'll kind of rob the copy from the teacher. They'll rob the messaging. They'll kind of take from it to get started. And the leader is like, "Oh no. Oh no. I need to be like way bolder, way more clear. I don't want to I need to be the leader in the industry." So that's like a motive or a mindset that some of these people have when they're going to do their rebrand. It's like I'm the leader. I'm at the top. I started this. And I'm saying I started this, but like I created this program. Now I've got all these copycats and they don't want to be confused with those people who are quote unquote, you know, less experienced.
That's a good point. How would you, if you were a copywriter trying to, let's say, get into like a similar niche as you and you wanted to help a service, you wanted to help a business with that exact problem, like how would you position it? Would you just be like, hey, like I can help you get clear on like your unique voice. I can help take you in a different direction and how you speak about your product. Like what kind of like messaging would you target them with?
Yeah, I talk a lot about positioning. And so I think that appeals to that client who is, yeah, they're just a little bit more advanced. And I actually see a lot of copywriters kind of not take this step when they need to, right? Everything's downstream from the client. So, what kind of quote unquote advanced thinking topics is this person, thinking about? If we don't have experience being that seven-figure business owner or that multi six-figure business owner, or even that business owner who's just invested, they're going from six to multi six, right? It's like we need to do everything we can to get in the room, I think, and to start to hear those people talk and to pick up the problems that they're speaking about. And I would say that my content around positioning probably appeals to that particular challenge, but I could also just call it out. Like there are people popping up and copying you, and you want to maintain your place in the marketplace. You want to maintain your position in the marketplace, and you want it to be evident that you're the leader here. And that comes through messaging and copywriting.
For sure. So much to think about. What I feel like you're one of the people that hasn't had AI really like impact your workflow. Am I right to say that, or are you feeling this? Or like, how is AI impacting your specific niche?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I have a couple of different directions I could go, but I don't fear AI taking anything from me at all. And I believe that's because I view myself as a consultant first and foremost. So someone can come consult with me and I don't have to do any done for you copy for them. They could come and say, hey, this is what's going on for me. Why is this thing not selling? What do you think? Uh, I mean, that's the basis of the lack of fear. I believe I consider myself to be like a valuable mind, like a key person who can come in and provide real human assessment of, what's going on in their business or what's going on with the sales system. The actual copywriting, I kind of laugh about like the AI stuff because I'm like, it really needs a human guiding, and I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit behind in the AI conversation, but I feel like from picking up on conversations other copywriters are having and designers are having, other people realize this too, that there needs to be a strong human mind guiding whatever AI tools we're using.
Right. Yeah, it's 100%. And I think that's with that because there's so much fear around, hey, should I even become a copywriter? Is this a viable career path with AI on the scene? And I think it does come down to like, well, are you investing in your knowledge and your expertise as more of a consultant versus just a writer? Because I do think that the people who are billing themselves as just a writer versus somebody who, like you said, is going to help with positioning and branding, you do kind of leave yourself a bit vulnerable because people want somebody who's going to come in and offer their expertise and bring something to the table other than just, hey, here's everything you need. I'm just going to contract out the writing portion. Nobody's looking just for writing, at least not anymore.
Right. That leaves a significant burden on the person's mind, whoever it is who's responsible above you, whether it's the business owner or someone else that they work with. There's a significant burden on them if they're guiding and directing the strategy and the ideas. And so, yeah, be that mind that can come in and change the game for them.
And tell me about your podcasting strategy because this is something I really want to get into. I am pitching podcasts every week, trying to get on people's podcasts. But what are your tips and tricks for getting featured on people's podcasts?
I'm having so much fun with this right now. So I set a goal to be on 12 podcasts in 2024 and I crushed it. And the way that I did this, Christine, was I did a visibility sprint. I was working with Jordan Shonda King of Easy Scaling. She's since sold that company to the Ads Girls. And in when my time inside Easy Scaling with Jordan Shonda King, who she does like the COO work, she has like a 12 to 20 person team. Anyway, she had her third baby and sold. Super cool. But they had me doing this visibility sprint in 2024. So what that looked like was making sure my Google Doc, my visibility doc was all ready and prepped. My bio, my graphics, my messaging, my speaking topics, my like sample pitches, my list of podcasts that I was going for. I highlight like color code, like pitched, didn't pitch. I'm very organized with it, with the dates, why I'm pitching that podcast. And so I came out of the gate in early 2024, landing 7 out of 10 of the people I pitched. And I love that because I'm like, this is what I'm good at. Like, I know I can frame a pitch to where it's adding value to the person on the other end. And so I was super proud, obviously copywriters, pitching. So anyway, I landed them and I'm doing the same thing this year, but I'm going for scary podcasts. And I have to kind of get organized and get my list going. I did a visibility sprint, which is basically the research and then the pitching. So I already did one and I think I've already booked 4 or 5 for this year. So I'm coming out strong. But I want to go bigger just because once you've been on a number of them, you're like, okay, like let me lean into like maybe a scary one, Is it more competitive to get on those? Yeah. So will I have to be more organized with my follow-ups and all that? Probably. I do have experience like way back in the day. I took Selena Sue's program. It was like, gosh, get known, get paid, something like that. She's a PR person. So I picked up a lot in there. And yeah, it's really cool, except it's hard for me to actually do the interviews because I have a lot going on. I'm like, this is a lot.
That's the problem. Once you pitch and somebody actually responds and you get the outcome, you're like, now I actually have to deliver on this and it takes time.
The one I was on yesterday, Christine, my hair was very greasy and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I got into the Riverside like room with this person and I saw how I looked and I was like, oh. I was like, I really need to really optimize for like recording. I don't optimize for video a lot. You have YouTube, so you're used to like being YouTube ready. I am just not used to it. So I really need to be more strategic about the batching, you
Well,
know.
you're amazing now. So whatever you're doing
Well,
now, just do that.
well, that's because yesterday I was like, wow. And I was like, and this is going to be on YouTube. And I made myself sit still and not mess with my hair. I was like, you're not going to touch it. I didn't have makeup on. The lighting was so crazy. I was like, it's fine. This is going out in the world. You did it. You just keep going, move forward.
I don't know about you, but I don't watch podcasts really. Like, yeah, I glimpse at the screen every now and then, but the majority of what I consume is audio that I'm cleaning at the same time, cooking at the same time, walking the dog. So I never am sitting there like this. I have ADD, so I can't do that. So I guess just we never judge people as hard as, you're not being judged as hard as you think you are.
Yeah, 100%. That's what my husband said. He was like, on to the next one. I was like, you're right. But yeah, it's the recording as an introvert. That's the tough part. That's what I'll say.
Yes, and I totally feel that. For your podcast pitches, so like how do you go about researching which podcasts you want to be on? Like do you use ChatGPT to like compile a list or do you handpick them? And then in terms of your pitch, how do you structure your pitch? Do you send like a PDF with like your, because you said your visibility sheet. I'm curious what's on there.
Yeah, so I have the last thing I did is I have an assistant. I had her compile a list of podcasts. So I told her what I was looking for and I wanted to bring her mind into it because the podcast communications are a lot on me. The back and forth, the scheduling. I just really need help with communications and so I can stay in my zone and do the writing projects and also grow the business. So she compiled a list for me and I was so thrilled at her ideas. She actually had better ideas than I had. Like she just picked some great podcasts and got me really excited about getting on some of these, Christian business podcasts, for example. It's like a whole different arena that I haven't fully entered. And I thought, yeah, these women will have values similar to me. These are going to be the conservative women. These are going to be the women who understand that men are men and women are women, so let's go there. So basically, why didn't I think of this before? So she got this great list going for me and I gave her direction. I do have a running run over from last year of other podcasts. So I have a big long list to work with. My pitches always open with I leverage my audience for the podcast host. So I tell them how many email subscribers I have. I tell them I'm happy to send the episode to my entire email list. I'm happy to post on social, and I would love to, serve your audience. These are my topics. If you think this would be a great match for your readers and your listeners, I would love to, bring forth a conversation for you. My media sheet is a one-page PDF. I don't always attach it in the first pitch. I wait for permission, kind of. It's kind of like it's intuitive. If I feel like they're easy, maybe I'll throw it in there. But typically I'll be like, do you want me to send my media sheet over? It's got my, full speaking topics. On the media sheet, I leverage my best interviews. So I've been leveraging the one with you. That was a huge interview for me. So thank you so much. Our first on here. I leveraged that and I landed another good one that was the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast, which is an award-winning show. So everyone counts. But when you get good ones too, put those at the top, leverage them. I've been seen on, or I was on, my bio's on my media sheet, my photo, the podcast I've been on, and my email list size, and my 5 speaking topics for the year. So it's really basic and it's clean and easy to understand what I can speak on and what I can bring to them. My pitching tip, like overall, if I was to summarize, would be lead with how you can add value to that business owner.
Yeah, I love that because I think so much of pitching the right way is just having this thought process of knowing that the person on the other end of that message is reading your message through the lens of what's in it for me. So when they see, oh, she is going to speak on this topic, which I know my audience is going to find value in. Oh, she has an email list of her own. She has a little bit of a following of her own that she can get more exposure to the episode. These are all things that are benefiting them and not just being like, I'm Jillian Anderson, I'm a copywriter and I want to go on your podcast, which is unfortunately how most people pitch. It's always like, hey, my name is Christine, I'm a copywriter and I can do this for you. You want to always lead with what's in it for them because nobody cares what you do or who you are unless there's something in it for them. That's just how we're wired.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot of different emails. So the self-interest definitely lights a light bulb in their head of like, ooh, this could be great for me.
What's a way, and we'll end it on this because I know we're coming at time, but what is a way that you make sure that you're making the most of that podcast appearance? So like, do you have a call to action of like, hey, download my lead magnet, find me on social media? Like, what's your way of making sure you get the most ROI from appearing on these podcasts?
Yeah, I think the ROI starts with what podcasts you select. That's the biggest thing. So who's listening? Make sure it's a good match for you in some way. I have accidentally built up some like a following of some copywriters, which was unintentional, which is cool. And I think I'll leverage it in the future. I think I have some plans, but it's really starting with the audience match. That's the ROI. If you end up on a podcast where the audience is like for me, if I end up where it's mostly male listeners, I'm never going to work with you guys. Sorry. I just don't. I don't work with men really. I mean, I was on this podcast with this guy, Brett, yesterday. He's from New Jersey. He was awesome. It was such a cool podcast. You know, he pitched me, he invited me, and I said yes. The podcasts that you go for matter. And then I don't promote unless they say, at the end, I can reference my stuff. Sometimes they'll put my PDFs in the show notes, like a lead magnet. And I have 2 different lead magnets for 2 different client types. And so I basically just share my website and share my social if I can. I think there may be optimization there for me in making the most of the ending.
Yeah, I feel like people are so used to consuming podcasts now, though, that I know for me, the minute I hear somebody and they say something that resonates with me, I find them on Instagram. That's always my first instinct. I think most people operate like that now.
Same, me too. I'm like, I want to stay in touch with this person. Yeah.
Okay, tell us what you have planned for this year in your business and like what you're working on. Like, I think I had heard you talk about maybe creating an offer, anything that you want to share that we can get involved with.
Oh, I wonder what offer we were talking about. I've got so much like I'm working on, Christine. I have a mentorship offer for copywriters that I actually just took a copywriter through. She was with me for 7 months and we did audio, back and forth. And I was just helping her speed up her process. She is a go-getter. And so she just was going to soar without me. I'll say that. Like she was ready and hungry for her first 6-figure year. She had it. Amazing. I'm working on that offer, optimizing the entry point for it. But all in all, mean, right now for me, I have work to do with my done for you side of the business in terms of opening my capacity and yeah, copywriting is interesting. I mean, Danny Page was my mentor for Sales Page Prep School, which you know. I found her on your channel, by the way. Thank you so much for changing my whole trajectory. Yeah. And, she accidentally ended up leading copywriters, so I think I do need to have a couple workshops specifically for copywriters because the demand is there. I'm getting a lot of questions. So I would say to the listeners, maybe look out for a couple small, tight-knit group workshops for copywriters coming up.
I will be the first one to sign up for that. And I think the beauty of it is that we all come at this from such a different perspective. And where I might be strong at like cold pitching and getting into like a B2B enterprise company to write content and copy for, there's a whole other world within this same sphere that's very different from how I operate and how I pitch and how I get clients. And that's why I think these conversations are so important because I now want to lean more into what you're doing and how you're acquiring clients so that I can shift the type of clients I go for. So I feel like that's kind of like a takeaway I want for everyone listening to get is that you might start on this journey thinking you're going to do a certain thing for a certain type of client. And there's so much freedom to shift and pivot and reinvent yourself and pivot your niche, rebrand yourself. And no one gives, there's no, because like I come from a corporate background where I had to go and ask, hey, I want to switch roles within the company, do you think you can give me a chance to do this? There's none of that. You decide what you want to do and you brand yourself as that person, and then you bring it out into the marketplace and see if someone wants it. And there's something really cool about that. If you can get past the scariness of, like you said, the dry month or the no's or the rejection or the uncertainty, there's something really cool about that.
Yeah, there's so much potential, so much opportunity, and I love that the power and the decision making is in the person's hands.
Yeah, I think certain people thrive under that assumption and then other people get really scared. I feel like I vacillate between both of those where I have like an existential crisis maybe like once a month and have a breakdown, but then 90% of the time I'm like this is so cool.
I relate. I think that's called being a woman, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I go through it too. Ups and downs in entrepreneurship.
Yes, yes. I do think men experience that as well, but maybe just not as intense because the hormones aren't.
We
I'm like
just
one mental breakdown away from, tapping out at any given moment, but I've done it since 2019, so I must have some stability left in my brain.
I think you have more stability than you give yourself credit for sure.
Thank you. I knew that. Okay, Jillian, where can people connect with you? Where do you hang out most?
Nice. w.jillian-anderson.com is my website. I'm on Instagram when I feel like it right now. So it's at Jillian A. Anderson. And I do networking there. So network with me there. It's really, a networking place. I'm doing the same on Threads right now and loving it. Kind of a little hint for copywriters is you can really, Threads is so easy and it's writing. There's no video required. So at Jillian A. Anderson, join the wild, wild west of Threads with me. Let's hang out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jillian.
Thanks, Christine.